Welcome, rare coin insider. Imagine holding in your hand what looks like just a simple copper-colored penny, a small 1-cent coin from the year 1988. To most people, it would be nothing more than pocket change, the type of coin you throw into a jar at the end of the day, or maybe lose between the cushions of a sofa without ever thinking twice about it. But what if I told you that this very same coin, this 1-cent piece that people usually ignore, has a version so rare, so extraordinary, that collectors and numismatists around the world are willing to pay not just thousands, not just millions, but up to a mind-blowing $173 million for it? Yes, you heard that right. A coin with a face value of a single cent, equal to 1 penny, could be worth more than the price of luxury mansions, fleets of supercars, private jets, and even entire islands combined. This is not just a random story. This is a tale of history, design, rarity, market hype, and the deep passion of coin collectors who see extraordinary value where the rest of us see only a piece of metal. Now let's start by taking a closer look at the coin itself. The 1988 1-cent coin belongs to the Lincoln Cent series, a design that has been one of the most familiar pieces of currency in American history. On the obverse, or the front side of the coin, we see the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, a figure associated with freedom, justice, and the abolition of slavery. The portrait of Lincoln first appeared on the cent in 1909 to mark the 100th anniversary of his birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this portrait has endured over a century of circulation, making it one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. By 1988, the design had already been in use for nearly 80 years, yet it still carried that symbolic power that linked a nation's everyday transactions with the legacy of one of its greatest leaders. The details of the obverse are important. You will notice the word liberty stamped to the left of Lincoln's profile, and above his head the phrase, "In God we trust," the national motto of the United States. To the right of Lincoln's portrait, you see the date, 1988. Now, this date may look like any other ordinary number, but for coin collectors, dates are not just indicators of time. They are codes, clues, markers that tell stories about where the coin was minted, how many were struck, and what variations might exist. Some coins carry mint marks, small letters under the date indicating which mint produced them, whether Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. On a 1988 cent, you may find no mint mark, which means it came from Philadelphia, or you may see a D indicating Denver or an S indicating San Francisco. Each variation has its own level of rarity and value. On the reverse side of the coin in 1988, we find the image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This was a change from the earlier wheat ears design used from 1909 to 1958. The Lincoln Memorial reverse was designed by Frank Gasparo, and it features the massive marble structure that honors Lincoln's memory. What makes this design especially fascinating is that if you look very closely, with a magnifying glass, you can actually see a tiny figure of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, the same statue visible to visitors in real life when they walk into the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. It is one of the rare times in U.S. coinage where a person appears on both the obverse and reverse of the same coin. Above the memorial, we see the words, United States of America, and just below them, the national motto, E pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one, and below the memorial, the denomination, 1 cent. So here we have, in physical description, a coin that weighs about 2.5 grams if it is a copper-plated zinc version, or about 3.11 grams if it is one of the older copper-based types. By 1988, most cents were made of copper-plated zinc, with the core being 97.5% zinc and the thin plating being 2.5% copper. This change had occurred in 1982, when the cost of copper became too expensive compared to the value of the coin itself. Before that, cents were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which made them heavier and gave them a slightly different tone. So, depending on which composition your 1988 cent has, its weight and metallic content will vary. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, so this is a small coin, with Lincoln on one side, the memorial on the other, copper-plated zinc at its base, and a date that says 1988. But how does this add up to something worth $173 million? The answer lies in rarity, error, condition, and collector frenzy. Not every 1988 cent is valuable, of course. Billions of them were produced, and most are worth just 1 cent. But hidden among these billions are rare varieties and minting errors that elevate their value to unbelievable levels. One of the most famous and sought-after variations of the 1988 cent is known as the 1988 double die, where the design elements appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. In particular, the double die obverse shows doubling in Lincoln's eye, lips, and some letters. These varieties are often subtle, but collectors with sharp eyes and magnifying glasses can spot them. Because they are rare, they can sell for thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands depending on the condition. Then there is the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety. This is where the reverse design used on 1989 cents was mistakenly paired with a 1988 obverse die. How can you tell the difference? By looking closely at the FG, initials of the designer Frank Casparo, which are positioned differently on the reverse of 1989 coins compared to 1988. If you happen to have a 1988 cent with the reverse of 1989, you are holding a treasure far more valuable than its face value. Condition also plays a huge role. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state, with MS-70 being a perfect, flawless coin. A 1988 cent that has been heavily circulated, scratched, or worn may be worth just a cent, while one that is in pristine mint state, shiny and untouched, could fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Add to that the special varieties and errors, and suddenly you enter the world of 6-figure or 7-figure values. Now imagine the extreme rarity of a coin that is not only in the highest possible condition, but also represents one of the rarest varieties known, perhaps a unique mint error or a coin that survived with features that no other 1988 cent possesses. Such a coin becomes a legend in the collecting community, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that people are willing to pay astronomical sums for. The claim of a 1988 cent being worth $173 million comes from the intense hype that surrounds such legendary rarities. Just like art collectors will pay hundreds of millions for a single painting, coin collectors with vast fortunes are willing to spend whatever it takes to own the rarest, most unique specimens of American coinage. To them, owning such a coin is like owning history itself, a piece of national heritage preserved in metal. Think about it. Every coin is a time capsule. When you hold a 1988 cent, you are touching something that was struck more than 3 decades ago, during the final years of the Cold War, the era of Ronald Reagan's presidency, a time of massive cultural shifts, technological innovation, and world change. A coin that circulated in someone's pocket in 1988 may have been used to buy candy, a newspaper, or a payphone call. It might have been carried by a young student, a factory worker, or a traveler. It could have passed through countless hands, each with its own story. And yet, among these countless coins, one can stand apart, shining like a hidden diamond, carrying a price tag that defies imagination. This is why collectors obsess over details. They use magnifiers, microscopes, reference guides, and years of study to distinguish ordinary cents from extraordinary ones. And when they find something like the 1988 reverse of 1989, the market explodes with excitement. auctions are held, bids climb into the millions, and news spreads across the globe. Suddenly, everyone begins searching their coin jars, piggy banks, and old drawers, wondering if they too might have a hidden fortune. Now, you might ask, why would someone pay $173 million for a penny? Isn't that insane? The answer is that in the world of high-end collecting, value is not about utility, but about uniqueness and desire. Just as a simple canvas with paint can sell for hundreds of millions if painted by a master like Leonardo da Vinci or Pablo Picasso, a simple coin can achieve the same if it represents something irreplaceable. To the right collector, owning the rarest 1988 cent is not just about the coin itself, it is about prestige, status, and the thrill of having what no one else can ever have. And so the story of the 1988 1-cent coin becomes not just a tale of copper and zinc, not just a tale of mint marks and designs, but a tale of human passion, obsession, and the extraordinary lengths to which people will go in pursuit of rarity. It becomes a reminder that even the humblest of objects, something most of us overlook every day, can hide secrets of unimaginable value. When we continue this incredible journey of the 1988 1-cent coin, we begin to understand that the true magic lies not only in its metallic structure or its outward appearance, but in the story that surrounds it. Every coin minted has a story, but some stories rise above the rest, echoing across decades, capturing the imagination of both collectors and dreamers alike. The 1988 penny, as simple as it seems, has become a cultural phenomenon in the world of numismatics. And to truly appreciate why someone would even whisper about a value as outrageous as $173 million, we need to step into the world of collectors, into their minds, into their passion, and into the history of coin collecting itself. Coin collecting, also known as numismatics, is not just a hobby, it is a centuries-old tradition. Kings and emperors once collected coins not for profit, but for prestige, for the sense of holding history in their hands. Coins survive where empires fall. They carry the faces of leaders long gone, the symbols of nations that no longer exist, and the artistry of engravers who lived hundreds of years ago. A coin can outlive wars, revolutions, and collapses, and yet remain intact, silent witnesses to humanity's endless march through time. When collectors look at a coin like the 1988 cent, they don't just see metal. They see continuity, heritage, and the possibility of uncovering a hidden treasure among billions. The psychology of a collector is a fascinating thing. Imagine a person who spends hours hunched over coin rolls, using magnifying glasses, hunting for errors, varieties, and hidden gems. To them, each coin is like a lottery ticket, but with better odds. Where most people see nothing but spare change, collectors see a canvas filled with tiny details that can make the difference between 1 cent and $100 million. They look for doubling, repunching of mint marks, slight differences in font or design, misplaced elements, or even changes caused by human error during the minting process. Errors to most industries mean imperfection, but in numismatics, errors are perfection of a different kind. They are rare, unrepeatable, and therefore incredibly valuable. The 1988 penny entered this arena of obsession because of specific varieties that shook the market. The so-called reverse of 1989 is the most famous, where the coin has the obverse design of 1988, but the reverse of 1989. To an untrained eye, both reverses look almost identical, but to the collector, the positioning of the designer's initials, FG, makes all the difference. This small difference transforms an ordinary set into a legend, capable of selling for thousands. Imagine the thrill of someone discovering one of these coins in their change and realizing they had been carrying around a piece of history worth a small fortune. That thrill is addictive, and it fuels the hunt. And the hunt is what makes stories like the $173 million valuation possible. Let us be clear, not every 1988 cent is worth millions. Most are not even worth $1. But within the coin market, value is not fixed like the price of bread or gasoline. It fluctuates, it bends, it rises with hype, demand, and rarity. If a wealthy collector decides that they must own a specific coin, perhaps because it is unique or holds sentimental or symbolic value, they may bid astronomically high at auction. Auctions thrive on competition, on ego, on the idea that I must have what no one else has. This is how paintings sell for hundreds of millions, how rare stamps and trading cards fetch record-breaking amounts, and how a penny can be rumored to be worth $173 million. Now think about the context of 1988 itself. This was a year full of transformation. The Cold War was nearing its end, technology was advancing, music and culture were shifting dramatically. The world was moving into a new era, and coins struck during that period became silent relics of that moment in time. When collectors hold a 1988 penny, they are not just holding metal, they are holding the memory of that year. They are holding the echoes of what was happening globally. Some collectors even believe that coins absorb the energy of their time, that they carry an aura of history with them. While this may sound mystical, it is part of the emotional connection people have with their collections. And emotions drive prices as much as rarity does. A wealthy collector may look at a unique 1988 penny and think, "This coin is mine. This coin represents something about me, about my success, my uniqueness." Suddenly, the bidding skyrockets, not because the coin has more copper or because it is heavier, but because it is desired. Desire is the fuel of the coin market. When desire meets rarity, explosions happen. And those explosions are reported in headlines, on websites, in videos, sparking more desire, more searches, more hunters opening jars of pennies across the world. It is also important to understand grading, because grading transforms value. A 1988 cent in poor condition may never exceed its face value, but the same coin in pristine, untouched condition, stored carefully from the moment it left the mint, can be a superstar. Coin grading companies, like PSGS or NGC, provide certifications that make or break prices. A coin graded MS67 or higher can easily command tens of thousands, while the same coin in MS70 perfection may reach unimaginable numbers. For the rare 1988 varieties, such grades create astronomical valuations, because collectors know that condition and rarity combined create the ultimate formula for value. Stories of coins selling for millions ignite people's imaginations. Newspapers and online blogs report tales of pennies found in drawers that changed lives. Social media amplifies the excitement. Videos circulate claiming that your old pennies could be worth more than gold, and suddenly everyone begins to look more carefully at their spare change. This creates a cycle. Hype drives demand, demand drives prices, and prices create more hype. And in this storm of speculation and reality, values like $173 million emerge. But let us not forget the symbolism of the Lincoln cent itself. It has been in circulation longer than any other coin in American history, making it both familiar and iconic. Lincoln is not just a president, he is a symbol of unity, freedom, and the struggle for equality. The coin is not just currency, it is a cultural artifact. For many collectors, the emotional connection to Lincoln enhances the coin's value. Owning a rare Lincoln cent is like owning a piece of American identity. And for wealthy collectors who are deeply patriotic or nostalgic, paying a fortune for such a coin is not just an investment, it is a statement. Consider also the role of mistakes. Mistakes in minting are like fingerprints. They are unique, they cannot be replicated exactly, and they happen rarely. A double die, a misaligned die, a clipped planchet, or a mule error where two mismatched dies strike a coin. These mistakes are like accidents frozen in time, accidents that can never be repeated. They are beautiful anomalies, accidents that collectors treasure. The 1988 cent has such anomalies, and each anomaly carries its own price tag. Some anomalies are worth hundreds, others thousands, and the rarest perhaps millions. And in the mythos of collecting, even billions are whispered. To understand why a penny could ever be valued at $173 million, imagine standing at an auction house. The room is filled with billionaires, with collectors who have everything money can buy, but they are still searching for the one thing they do not have. The auctioneer holds up a coin, the only one of its kind, a perfect mint-error from 1988, with history and mystery surrounding it. Bidding starts at 1 million. Hands go up. 2 million. 5 million. 10 million. The room is electric. 20 million. 50 million. 100 million. Gasps fill the air. And finally, at 173 million, the hammer falls. History has been made. A penny has become a legend. This may sound like fantasy, but the world of collecting thrives on such fantasies becoming reality. Just as a single stamp, a single baseball card, or a single comic book can sell for unimaginable sums, so too can a penny. And the 1988 cent, with its varieties, its stories, and its place in history, is a prime candidate for such legendary status. So, when we speak of the 1988 penny and its potential worth, we are not just speaking about metal and design. We are speaking about the human heart, about obsession, about desire, about history, and about the magic that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. The 1988 cent, in its rarest form, is not just a coin. It is a dream made of copper and zinc, a dream that collectors chase across decades, a dream that one day might just be worth $173 million. The deeper we dive into the story of the 1988 1-cent coin, the more we realize that this is not only a tale about American currency, but about the global fascination with objects of rarity and power. A coin that was struck in the United States, passed through vending machines and cash registers, now finds itself at the center of worldwide attention. Collectors from Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and beyond all keep their eyes on the rare Lincoln cents because numismatics is not confined to one nation, it is a universal passion. People everywhere are drawn to the idea that something so small, so overlooked, can hide a secret fortune. And when headlines announce that a penny is being whispered about at a value of $173 million, the fascination spreads like wildfire across the globe. Let us imagine the market for a moment. The global coin market is estimated to be worth billions of dollars, and it continues to grow as new collectors enter the field, fueled by the internet, social media, and stories that circulate of life-changing discoveries. An ordinary family in Pakistan, India, or South America might read about a rare penny found in America and begin looking at their own coins, searching for varieties. This creates a ripple effect where the coin itself becomes larger than life, no longer just a small piece of American change, but a symbol of hidden treasure across cultures. The 1988 penny, because of its notoriety, has become one of these symbols. Collectors love stories, and the best stories are those of discovery. Imagine a young teenager opening a jar of coins passed down from his grandfather. Among the coins, he notices one penny from 1988 that looks slightly different. Curious, he searches online and finds images of the 1988 reverse of 1989. His heart races as he compares the initials, the spacing, the tiny details. Could it be? He takes the coin to a local coin dealer who confirms it is real. Suddenly, a coin that had been sitting in a jar for decades is now worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Stories like this are what keep collectors searching, because they show that fortune can be found in the most unexpected of places. And once in a while, these stories even make it to auction houses, where the coin is displayed under bright lights, surrounded by wealthy bidders, all ready to pay whatever it takes to own that piece of magic. Auction houses are like theaters of desire. The atmosphere is heavy with tension, anticipation, and excitement. The auctioneer's voice rises and falls, echoing across the room, each number higher than the last. In the audience, some bid with cool precision while others raise their hands with trembling excitement. The rare 1988 cent, displayed in a protective case, becomes the star of the show. Cameras flash, journalists record, and the moment becomes part of history. When the hammer finally comes down at a staggering price, the coin becomes immortalized, its legend written not only in coin catalogs, but in news headlines, and in the memory of every collector alive. This is how myths are born. People begin to tell the story of the penny that sold for millions, and in retelling, the value grows. A $50,000 coin becomes a $500,000 coin in the imagination, then a $5 million coin, and eventually the whispers grow to $173 million. Whether or not such a sale has actually occurred becomes secondary. What matters is the belief, the possibility, the dream. And that dream fuels the next generation of collectors, who search their change more carefully, who save every 1988 cent they find, hoping that one day theirs will be the one worth a fortune. And yet, there is also a side of myth-busting in this story. Professional numismatists often remind the public that not every penny is valuable. Just because it has the date 1988 does not make it special. The truth is that billions of 1988 cents were minted, and almost all of them are worth only 1 cent. It is only the rare errors, varieties, and high-grade coins that have real value. This reality check is important, but it does not stop the imagination from running wild. Because even if the odds are 1 in a billion, someone will still win that lottery, someone will still hold the treasure, and that possibility is enough to keep the search alive. The design itself also plays a psychological role. Lincoln's face is familiar, comforting, and respected. Generations of Americans grew up seeing his portrait in their daily lives, on both the penny and the $5 bill. He is associated with honesty, freedom, and sacrifice. Having his image on the coin elevates its importance, even subconsciously. The reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial adds further depth, as it is not only a building but a shrine, a sacred place in Washington, D.C. visited by millions each year. To own a rare cent with such powerful symbols feels like owning a fragment of national heritage. For international collectors, it becomes a way of owning a piece of American history, something deeply tied to one of the world's most influential nations. Now consider the economics of rarity. Value in the coin market is determined by a balance of supply and demand. If billions of coins exist, but only a handful of rare varieties survive, demand skyrockets because everyone wants what only a few can have. Scarcity breeds desire. And when desire is multiplied by wealth, astronomical values are born. Think about diamonds. Intrinsically, they are just stones, but because they are marketed as rare and valuable, people are willing to spend fortunes. The same principle applies to coins. A penny may be small, but its story makes it priceless. We also need to look at the role of grading companies in fueling this frenzy. PCGS and NGC are the giants of certification, and when they assign a coin a high grade, it becomes instantly more valuable. A 1988 cent in mint state 65 may be worth a few $100s, but one in mint state 67 or 68 can leap to thousands. If a unique error coin is certified at a top grade, the sky is the limit. These companies provide not only authentication but also trust, and in markets where millions are at stake, trust is everything. When a coin is encapsulated in a plastic slab with a label of a grading company, it transforms from a piece of metal into a recognized investment, a certified artifact. Let us not underestimate the power of storytelling in auctions either. Auctioneers and coin companies know that stories sell coins. They emphasize the rarity, the uniqueness, the one-of-a-kind status of the coin. They compare it to famous sales in history, to legendary collectors, to the idea that owning this coin is like owning history itself. And when that story is told convincingly, bidders compete not only for the coin, but for the story, for the right to say they own the coin everyone else talks about. That is why headlines about a penny worth $173 million spread so quickly, because they are not just about numbers, they are about the imagination. It is also important to reflect on how coins, like the 1988 penny, affect ordinary people. For many, coin collecting begins not with wealth, but with curiosity. A child finds a shiny coin, a parent passes down a small collection, a person stumbles across a news article and checks their pocket change. From these humble beginnings, great collections are born. And sometimes, those collections lead to life-changing discoveries. The dream that your everyday penny could be worth millions gives people hope, excitement, and wonder. It turns the mundane act of handling change into a treasure hunt. In this way, the 1988 cent has transcended its role as a piece of currency. It has become a cultural icon, a symbol of hidden fortune, a reminder that value is not always where we expect it to be. Just as people search for meaning in art, music, or literature, coin collectors search for meaning in the small details of metal. They see beauty in the shine of a fresh strike, in the doubling of a die, in the faintest of mint marks. They see history in the scratches, the wear, the journey of the coin through countless hands. And for them, the 1988 penny is a canvas on which dreams of wealth, history, and passion are painted. So, when we think of the 1988 penny and its rumored value of $173 million, we must remember that it is not just about the number. It is about everything that number represents: rarity, history, passion, desire, and the endless human quest for something extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. When we continue our journey with the 1988 1-cent coin, we start to understand that what makes this story so powerful is not only the coin itself, but the pattern of history it fits into. Coins throughout history have shocked the world with their prices. They are small objects, often forgotten, yet when rarity and demand collide, they can command prices that rival the greatest works of art. The story of the 1988 penny and its rumored valuation of $173 million is not isolated. It is part of a long tradition of numismatic surprises that have stunned collectors, historians, and even the general public. Let us look at some real-world examples. Consider the 1933 Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin from the United States. Most were melted down, but a few survived. In 2002, one example sold for over $7 million. Years later, another example shattered records by selling for more than $18 million, making it the most expensive coin ever sold at public auction. Now think about that. $18 million for a single piece of metal that once had a face value of just $20. If that can happen for a gold coin, why not for a penny? The logic is the same: rarity, history, and desire. Another example is the 1794 flowing hair dollar, considered the first silver dollar ever struck by the U.S. Mint. Collectors believed it represented the birth of American coinage. In 2013, one specimen sold for over $10 million. Once again, we see the power of uniqueness combined with symbolism. The 1988 penny may not be the first of its kind, but in its rarest form, with its errors and varieties, it represents a chapter of history that cannot be duplicated. Internationally, coins have achieved similar fame. Ancient Roman aurei, medieval gold florins, and rare Chinese cash coins have all sold for staggering sums at auctions. This proves that across cultures, coins are more than money, they are heritage. The 1988 cent, in this global landscape, becomes one of many coins elevated from the mundane to the extraordinary. What makes the penny even more fascinating is the rivalry it creates among collectors. Imagine two billionaires competing for the same coin. For them, it is not about the penny's face value. It is about victory, about owning something the other cannot. Rivalries and auctions have driven prices higher than anyone expected. Bidders raise their paddles again and again, fueled not by logic but by pride and passion. In the end, the final price is not determined by what the coin is worth on paper, but by how badly someone wants it. This is how the mythical figure of $173 million can emerge, not from economics, but from human emotion, competition, and ego. Now let us step back and think about the coin's design once more. The Lincoln cent, with its familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, is a coin that millions handle every day. But familiarity can hide treasure. The irony of the 1988 penny is that it is both the most common and, in its rarest forms, the most valuable. This duality is part of the magic. Collectors are drawn to the idea that within the ordinary lies the extraordinary. The penny becomes a metaphor for life itself. What looks small, simple, and insignificant may actually hold greatness if seen through the right lens. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse adds further layers of meaning. When you look closely, you can see the statue of Lincoln inside, making him appear on both sides of the coin. This tiny detail, often overlooked, symbolizes depth, perspective, and hidden beauty. For collectors, such symbolism enhances the experience. Owning a rare 1988 cent is not just about money. It is about holding a piece of artistry, symbolism, and history in the palm of your hand. Let's not forget the economics of coin markets either. Unlike stocks or bonds, coins are tangible. They can be held, displayed, admired. They are immune to technological obsolescence. A penny struck in 1988 will still be a penny hundreds of years from now. That permanence appeals to collectors and investors alike. Rare coins are seen as safe havens, assets that can appreciate with time. When the world economy fluctuates, people turn to tangible treasures like gold, art, and yes, even coins. The 1988 penny, with its legendary reputation, fits neatly into this investment narrative. Collectors often talk about the story premium. This means that the story of a coin can be as valuable as the coin itself. For the 1988 cent, the story is irresistible. A coin worth 1 cent suddenly whispered to be worth more than $100 million. It captures the imagination of the public, inspires media coverage, and creates a mythic aura. Even if the exact figure of $173 million is never realized, the story alone increases demand, because people want to be part of that legend. They want to hold the coin that everyone talks about. Now imagine this coin 100 years from now. Imagine a future auction where collectors from all over the world gather in a digital or physical arena, bidding not only for the coin, but for the legacy attached to it. By then, the 1988 cent will be nearly 150 years old, a relic of the late 20th century, a time capsule from a world long past. The story of its rise to fame, its rumors of extraordinary value, and its connection to collectors of today will add to its mystique. The value could soar even higher, making today's speculation seem modest. There is also something deeply human about the way we assign value. We crave rarity because rarity reminds us of our own uniqueness. Just as no two people are exactly alike, no two era coins are identical. The 1988 penny, in its rarest forms, becomes a mirror of that truth. It is a reminder that within the mass-produced, the identical, the billions of coins that look the same, there can exist one coin that is unlike all the others. And that one coin becomes priceless. Some skeptics laugh at the idea of a penny being worth $173 million. They say it is impossible, absurd, unrealistic. But history has shown us time and again that the market for rarity defies logic. Who would have thought a baseball card could sell for over $6 million? Who would have thought a simple painting of a woman with a faint smile could become the most valuable artwork in the world? Human desire has no limits, and where desire flows, money follows. The 1988 penny is no different. Think of the stories collectors tell each other. Around dinner tables, at coin shows, in online forums, they whisper about the mythical 1988 penny, about the auctions that might happen, about the hidden fortunes waiting to be discovered. These stories create a community, a shared sense of wonder. For many, it is not just about owning the coin, but about being part of the journey, part of the hunt. The excitement of searching, of finding, of imagining, that is the real treasure. And yet, we cannot ignore the poetry of it all. A coin designed to represent the smallest unit of American money, a coin so often disregarded, is the very coin that teaches us the greatest lesson about value. It tells us that greatness can hide in the simplest of things, that wealth can be found where least expected, that even the humblest penny can rise to legendary status. The 1988 cent is more than metal. It is a story about us, our dreams, our obsessions, our endless quest for meaning and rarity. So, when people say a 1988 penny might be worth $173 million, they are not just talking about currency. They are talking about imagination, history, rivalry, and human nature itself. They are talking about the magic that turns ordinary change into extraordinary treasure. And whether or not the number is ever achieved, the legend has already been written. The coin has already claimed its place in the mythology of numismatics. As we reach the final chapter of this extraordinary journey into the world of the 1988 1-cent coin, it becomes clear that we are not just telling the story of a piece of metal, but of human dreams, passion, and imagination. The legend of this penny is not limited to the past or even the present. It stretches far into the future, carrying with it endless possibilities for discovery, fortune, and inspiration. And as with all great legends, it is the combination of truth and myth, history and speculation, reality and fantasy that makes it unforgettable. Let us begin by looking at some of the rarest coin discoveries in history. There are stories of coins found in old barns, in dusty attics, buried underground, or tucked away in forgotten jars. One man in the United States once discovered a rare 1943 copper penny in his lunch money, a coin now valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another person stumbled upon a cache of ancient Roman coins while gardening, a discovery that not only brought wealth, but historical significance. Time and again, we hear of people who found coins worth life-changing sums in the most unexpected places. Each of these stories fuels the dream that perhaps the next discovery will be ours. And that is why millions continue to search, why every pocket of change becomes a treasure chest, why every 1988 cent is examined under a magnifying glass. Because the possibility exists that hidden among the billions is one coin that could rewrite history. Collectors are not just casual hobbyists, they are guardians of history. Some keep their rarest finds in vaults, secured behind layers of protection, unseen by the public. Others proudly display them in exhibitions, sharing their treasures with the world. But one thing is common: when a collector finds a unique piece, they treat it with reverence, as though they are holding not just money but a fragment of civilization itself. A 1988 cent with an extraordinary error, a once-in-a-lifetime variety, becomes more than a coin. It becomes a sacred object, protected, cherished, and passed on as a legacy. Imagine a wealthy collector who owns one of these mythical 1988 pennies. For him, the coin is not just an asset, it is a story he tells at gatherings, a secret he shares only with the closest of friends. Perhaps he even looks at it late at night, marveling at how something so small could mean so much. In his hands, the penny is not copper and zinc. It is pride, it is accomplishment, it is magic. And when the time comes, perhaps, he will release it to auction, where it will once again spark bidding wars and headlines, continuing the cycle of legend. But what about the future? What lies ahead for the 1988 penny? Already it has achieved fame in numismatic circles. Already it has captured imaginations around the world. As time passes, its rarity will only increase. Coins wear out, get lost, are destroyed, or are simply forgotten. The pool of surviving high-quality examples shrinks with each passing year. This natural attrition means that decades from now, the surviving specimens will be even more precious, even more sought after. What today is worth thousands could one day be worth millions. What today is whispered to be worth $173 million could one day actually achieve or surpass that figure. We also live in an era of digital collectibles, NFTs, and virtual treasures, but physical coins continue to hold a unique power. Unlike digital assets, a coin can be touched, felt, admired in the light. It carries weight, it carries texture, it carries history. The 1988 cent will endure not as a digital file, but as a tangible artifact of human history. And that tangibility ensures that it will remain desirable even in a future where everything else becomes virtual. Think of the child who, 100 years from now, will inherit a small box of coins from a great-grandparent. In that box will be a penny dated 1988. The child will research it, discover its legend, and realize that he or she holds not just a coin, but a piece of history that generations before had whispered about. The story will live on, passed from one generation to the next, ensuring that the legend of the 1988 penny never fades. And here is something truly poetic. The 1988 penny, a coin with the smallest denomination, has become associated with the largest imaginable wealth. A single cent transforming into $173 million is more than just a financial story. It is a metaphor for life. It tells us that even the smallest, most overlooked things can contain greatness. It reminds us not to dismiss the ordinary, because sometimes the ordinary hides the extraordinary. Picture for a moment the final scene of this story. A darkened auction hall, the rare 1988 penny displayed under a spotlight, the crowd hushed in anticipation. Bidding begins, numbers climb higher and higher, until the room gasps as the figure reaches $173 million. The hammer falls, and history is made. Journalists rush to report it, collectors whisper in awe, and the coin takes its place as the most valuable penny in the world. Whether this scene is fantasy or a vision of the future does not matter. What matters is that it is possible. And the possibility itself is enough to keep the legend alive. Because in the end, the story of the 1988 1-cent coin is not just about coins. It is about us. It is about our endless desire to find meaning, to chase rarity, to hold history in our hands. It is about the thrill of the hunt, the pride of discovery, the power of imagination. It is about turning something small into something immeasurable. And as long as humans continue to dream, to collect, to treasure, the 1988 penny will continue to shine as a symbol of that dream. So the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, or you open a drawer and find some old coins, do not dismiss them. Look closely, carefully, with curiosity, because history has shown us that the smallest things can carry the greatest value. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you could be the one to hold in your hand the fabled 1988 penny, the 1-cent coin that defied all expectations, a coin that turned copper and zinc into a legend worth $173 million. And if you are that person, if destiny places that coin in your hands, then you will not just be holding money. You will be holding a miracle. The legend of the 1988 1-cent coin does not stop at value, history, or design. It grows far beyond into the realms of culture, philosophy, and even myth. When people hear of a simple penny being connected with a figure as outrageous as $173 million, something shifts in their minds. It makes them ask questions not only about coins, but about life itself. How can something so small carry such power? How can something overlooked by billions become the subject of obsession, rivalry, and dreams? The penny becomes a mirror, reflecting not just numismatic history, but the human condition. Cultures around the world have long believed in the magic of coins. In ancient Rome, tossing a coin into a fountain was a way of seeking the gods' favor. In many parts of Asia, coins were placed in homes and businesses as symbols of prosperity and protection. In modern times, people still toss coins into wishing wells, believing that these small objects carry the ability to grant hopes and desires. The 1988 penny, when viewed through this lens, becomes more than a collectible. It becomes a talisman, a charm, a physical manifestation of luck and destiny. Collectors who own rare coins often speak of them with reverence, almost as if they are alive. They describe the thrill of finding one, the heartbeat that quickens, the hands that tremble as they hold a piece of history in their palm. This emotional connection elevates the coin far beyond its physical properties. It is no longer copper and zinc. It is history, beauty, rarity, and personal meaning fused into one. And when a coin has such power, its value becomes unmeasurable. That is why numbers like $173 million are not ridiculous. They are symbolic. They show that human passion can take something ordinary and make it extraordinary. Think of how myths are born. A story starts small, whispered in collector circles. Someone suggests that a particular variety of the 1988 penny is nearly impossible to find. Others add to the story, recalling rumors, mentioning auction results, exaggerating the rarity. Slowly, the story grows until it becomes larger than life. Soon, the coin is no longer just an object, it is a legend, a myth passed down from one collector to another, repeated at shows, online forums, dinner tables, and even YouTube videos like this one. By the time the story reaches the public, it has transformed into something magical, a penny worth $173 million. And whether or not the number is exact does not matter. The myth is alive, and that is what counts. This is where the coin transcends collecting and enters art. Because art is not only about paintings or sculptures, it is about anything that inspires feeling, imagination, and wonder. The 1988 penny, in its rarest and most mysterious forms, is art. It tells a story, it evokes emotions, it sparks dreams. When someone looks at it, they do not just see a coin. They see a symbol of possibility. They see hope that one day, something small in their life might also be revealed as extraordinary. Let us also remember that coins, unlike other collectibles, pass through countless hands. A rare 1988 penny may have once bought a stick of gum, passed as change at a grocery store, or sat in a piggy bank of a child who never knew its worth. That journey gives the coin a soul. It has lived, it has traveled, it has witnessed life. And now, after all those years, it emerges as an object of immense value. That history, invisible yet real, is what collectors crave. Because when you hold the coin, you are holding not only metal, but the secret journeys of countless lives. Now imagine the social impact if one of these pennies is publicly sold for a staggering figure like $173 million. The news would spread across the globe instantly. Newspapers, television, and social media would explode with the story of the world's most expensive penny. People who never cared about coins before would start checking their pockets, searching through jars, visiting coin shops. Interest in numismatics would surge to levels unseen in modern times. Children would start collecting, inspired by the dream that maybe their small discovery could also make history. The 1988 penny would become a cultural icon, a symbol of hidden value, sparking a global treasure hunt. It is also worth thinking about how this coin represents time. 1988 was not long ago, yet it feels like another era. The Berlin Wall still stood, the Cold War was nearing its end, and technology had not yet transformed the world. The penny is a time capsule from that moment. When you hold it, you are holding 1988 in your hands. That year, those events, that world, frozen forever in a small piece of metal. And as time passes, that link to history grows more precious. People will pay anything to hold time itself, to hold a fragment of the past that will never return. The symbolism grows deeper when we think of the penny's face value, 1 cent. The smallest unit of currency, often discarded, ignored, or considered worthless. And yet, it becomes the one that carries the greatest story. It is almost poetic justice. Life often hides greatness in the smallest things, reminding us never to underestimate what appears insignificant. The 1988 penny becomes a teacher, a philosopher in disguise, showing us that value is not determined by size or face value but by rarity, meaning, and perception. As the years go on, myths around the 1988 penny will only expand. Some will claim to have seen one sold secretly to a billionaire. Others will speak of hidden hoards waiting to be discovered. Documentaries will be made, articles written, debates held. And through it all, the coin will grow in legend until it is no longer just a collectible but a cultural phenomenon. And when, one day, it finally crosses the auction block at a record-breaking price, all those stories, all those whispers, all those dreams will come together in one breathtaking moment. And so we come to the end of our journey. But perhaps the true ending is not here. Perhaps it is waiting, in the hands of someone who even now holds a 1988 penny without knowing its worth. Maybe it is sitting in a jar, hidden in a drawer, or lying forgotten at the bottom of a purse. Perhaps the greatest treasure is out there right now, waiting to be discovered. And when it is, history will change once again. So, if you are watching this, remember, do not underestimate the coins you hold. Do not dismiss the pennies in your pocket. Each one has a story, and some stories can change your life forever. The 1988 1-cent coin is proof of that truth. A coin born as the smallest of all, rising to become the greatest legend in the history of money. And whether or not you ever find one, the story itself is already a gift, because it reminds us to dream bigger, to look closer, and to believe that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places. And maybe that is the real treasure. The journey of the 1988 1-cent coin continues to unfold like a never-ending story. Every time we think we have reached the final chapter, another layer reveals itself. That is the beauty of history and human imagination. There is no limit to how far a single object can take us. The penny, small and seemingly insignificant, keeps expanding into something larger, something mythic, something eternal. And that is why even now, long after its mintage, people still talk, still dream, still search. To understand the full weight of the 1988 penny, we must step back and reflect on the role of coins in human civilization. Coins are not just tools of exchange, they are storytellers. Every coin carries with it a message of the society that created it, its leaders, its ideals, its art, its economy. A coin is both history and prophecy, a record of what was and a hope of what could be. The Lincoln cent, with its enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, represents more than just currency. It is a monument to leadership, equality, and resilience. And the 1988 version, because of its varieties and rumored rarities, has elevated itself above the rest, becoming a symbol not only of America, but of the universal human desire to preserve and treasure meaning. Consider how different cultures interpret coins. In some traditions, coins are placed in the hands of the dead as payment for the journey into the afterlife. In others, they are given to children on New Year's Day as symbols of good fortune. In weddings, coins symbolize prosperity. In temples, they represent offerings. In ships, they are embedded as tokens of safe passage. The penny participates in all these rituals, not because of its value but because of what it represents: continuity, survival, and hope. When we attach $173 million to a 1988 penny, we are not merely assigning a price. We are acknowledging centuries of symbolism, giving material form to timeless beliefs. The psychological power of rarity cannot be overstated. When people hear that a coin they once dismissed might hold extraordinary value, something awakens inside them. Hope, desire, curiosity. Suddenly, everyday objects shimmer with potential. That old jar of change in the corner of a room is no longer junk. It is a possible treasure chest. This transformation of perspective is one of the greatest gifts the 1988 penny gives us. It teaches us to see differently, to imagine more, to believe that greatness can hide in plain sight. But rarity alone is not enough. It must be paired with story. And the story of the 1988 penny is irresistible. A coin from a common year, a design known to billions, suddenly whispered to be connected to astronomical value. A single mistake in the minting process, a doubled die, a transitional design, a missing-grade detail, becomes the seed of legend. Collectors speak of it in hushed tones, speculators spread rumors, journalists chase headlines. Each retelling adds a new layer of wonder, until the story itself becomes inseparable from the coin. Even those who doubt the $173 million figure cannot escape the magnetism of the narrative. It is not only about money, it is about myth. Think of how myths function in human culture. They are stories passed down not for their literal truth, but for the lessons they carry, the emotions they awaken. The 1988 penny has become a modern myth. It is our dragon's treasure, our philosopher's stone, our holy grail of numismatics. Whether or not anyone ever pays $173 million is secondary to the fact that people believe it could happen. That belief is what keeps the legend alive, and belief, once rooted in the human mind, has immense power. Belief can build empires, start revolutions, inspire art, and move markets. Belief turns ordinary copper into extraordinary treasure. And that is why, when we speak of the 1988 penny, we are speaking of something much greater than numismatics. We are speaking of faith, imagination, and the limitless possibilities of human dreams. Now picture the cultural explosion if one day, in the near future, a collector publicly confirms the existence of a unique 1988 variety. The news spreads instantly. Major networks report on it, newspapers print headlines, YouTube fills with videos, TikTok with reactions. Coin shops experience a surge of customers. Ordinary people rush to check their change. An entire generation rediscovers the joy of collecting, inspired by the dream of hidden fortune. The coin becomes not only a collectible but a movement, uniting people across countries and languages in a shared hunt for possibility. This is not fantasy. This is the real power of a story combined with rarity. The 1988 penny also invites us to reflect on time itself. Coins outlast generations. A penny struck in 1988 has already witnessed decades of history, recessions and booms, wars and peace, births and deaths, technological revolutions. And it will continue to witness more. Long after we are gone, the coin will remain. And whoever holds it in the future will not just hold metal. They will hold echoes of us, of this very moment, of our fascination and our dreams. That continuity, that ability of a coin to outlive its makers, gives it sacred weight. This brings us to perhaps the deepest truth of all. The real worth of the 1988 penny is not measured in dollars, but in meaning. The $173 million figure is dramatic, yes. It excites the imagination, yes. But the true value lies in what the coin teaches us. It teaches us to respect the small, to search for hidden treasure, to cherish history, to honor stories, and to dream without limits. That is a wealth no auction can measure. And yet, because humans are what we are, curious, ambitious, competitive, we will always chase numbers, we will always measure, we will always dream of the record-breaking sale, the dramatic auction, the gasp of the crowd when the hammer falls. And maybe, someday, that dream will become reality. Maybe one day the 1988 penny will indeed sell for a figure that astonishes the world. And when that day comes, it will not only be the buyer who wins. We will all win, because the legend will be confirmed, the dream vindicated, the myth proven real. But until then, the penny lives as legend. In drawers, in jars, in wallets, in pockets. In stories, in dreams, in whispers. It hides, it waits, it tempts. Somewhere out there, perhaps right now, someone holds the very coin that will shock the world. They may not know it yet. They may walk past it every day. They may spend it without realizing. Or they may one day, by chance or by curiosity, discover its secret. That moment of discovery will be one of the great stories of our age. And so, as we close this part of the journey, remember, legends are not always born in palaces or carved in stone. Sometimes, legends are struck in copper, carried in pockets, and overlooked by billions. Sometimes, legends are pennies. And sometimes, legends are waiting for you. The saga of the 1988 1-cent coin refuses to end, because legends never truly end. They evolve, they grow, they transform with every telling, every discovery, every new dream. And that is why we now enter a deeper layer of the story, where the penny is no longer just a coin, but a symbol of something greater than itself, a symbol of human obsession, belief, and destiny. When you think of coins, you may imagine small change jingling in a pocket, easy to overlook, easy to forget. Yet history shows us that some of the greatest cultural myths have been built around the smallest of objects. Think of relics, amulets, or even simple stones that entire civilizations worshipped and preserved. Why? Because humans have an innate ability to project meaning onto objects. We take what is ordinary and make it extraordinary through story, through ritual, through belief. The 1988 penny is our modern version of that phenomenon. It is not just metal, it is a relic of imagination, carrying weight far heavier than its physical grams. To understand how far this coin's legend could go, imagine a child today hearing the story of the $173 million penny. That child might laugh at first, but then curiosity takes root. They check their pockets, they examine coins with a magnifying glass, they dream of stumbling upon fortune. Years later, that same child grows into a collector, and the story of the 1988 cent has shaped their life, their passion, their career. This is how myths spread, not only through facts but through inspiration. The penny becomes more than money, it becomes a spark for dreams, and dreams are powerful. Dreams can move entire economies, as we see with stock markets, real estate bubbles, or the art world. A single painting, once ignored, can suddenly explode in value because people begin to dream of its greatness. The same is true with coins. The 1988 penny carries with it the dream of hidden treasure, of ordinary life suddenly transforming into extraordinary fortune. That dream fuels collectors, investors, storytellers, and treasure hunters alike. Think of the psychology of the collector. Why would someone pay millions, or potentially hundreds of millions, for a penny? Because for them, it is not just money. It is immortality. To own the most valuable penny is to carve one's name into history. It is to be remembered not only as rich but as unique, as the one person who held in their hand the legendary coin of an era. For billionaires, money itself is not enough. They seek trophies, symbols of their dominance. And what better symbol than a coin once dismissed as worthless, now transformed into the ultimate prize? The 1988 penny also invites us to explore the role of mystery and value. Markets thrive on transparency, but myths thrive on secrets. The more mysterious a coin becomes, the less people know about how many exist, where they are, or who owns them, the more its legend grows. Scarcity and secrecy are powerful partners. If tomorrow the U.S. Mint announced that exactly 10 unique era varieties of the 1988 penny exist, guarded in vaults, the frenzy would double. The mystery fuels the imagination, and imagination fuels value. Beyond economics and collecting, there is also the artistic side. When you look at the penny closely, you realize it is not just a coin, but a miniature sculpture. Abraham Lincoln's profile is rendered with care and detail, capturing the dignity of a man whose leadership defined a nation. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is itself a work of architecture, carefully translated into tiny form. When paired with rare minting errors, these artistic details take on surreal new shapes, doubled lines, misplaced features, unexpected textures. In these accidents of minting, we find accidental art, unintentional masterpieces that rival works hanging in museums. To own such a coin is to own not just currency, but art created by history and chance. Now imagine how the coin story will evolve in the future. 50 years from now, numismatic communities may look back on our time and marvel at the obsession with the 1988 cent. They may see it as the beginning of a new golden age of collecting, where ordinary people became treasure hunters, driven by the promise of hidden rarity. The coin may appear in documentaries, in books, even in films. It may become a symbol of perseverance, teaching future generations that value is not always obvious, that greatness is often hidden in the everyday. Picture the final scene of a future film: a dusty attic, a box of old change, a hand reaching in to pull out a tarnished penny from 1988. The camera zooms in, and the music swells. The narrator whispers about its legendary worth, and the screen fades to black. That is how powerful this coin story has become. It has all the elements of drama, suspense, hope, and wonder that define the greatest stories ever told. And while we may dream of cinematic endings, the truth is even more powerful. Because right now, somewhere in the real world, one of those pennies exists. It is out there, waiting to be found. It could be in a wallet, a drawer, a forgotten jar of coins. It could be traveling unnoticed from one hand to another, still living its humble life as currency, unaware of the fortune it represents. That tension, the idea that the treasure is both hidden and present, is what keeps the legend alive. We are all part of the story, because any one of us could stumble upon it. The penny teaches us patience as well. In a world obsessed with speed, with instant gratification, the legend of the 1988 cent reminds us that greatness sometimes takes decades to be revealed. A coin minted in 1988 only began to achieve mythic status years later, after whispers of its rarity spread. True value takes time to emerge, just as true greatness in life often takes years of persistence. In that sense, the penny is not just a collectible but a lesson. And so, the saga continues. Collectors still search, stories still spread, myths still grow. The penny endures, shining not just as copper, but as legend, as philosophy, as hope. Its face value will always be 1 cent, but its true value will always be infinite, because it carries with it the power of imagination. Perhaps the greatest truth of all is this: the $173 million figure is not just about money. It is about wonder. It is about humanity's refusal to see the world as ordinary. It is about our ability to take the smallest object and elevate it to a throne of greatness. That is what makes us human, that is what makes stories eternal, and that is what makes the 1988 penny immortal. So, the next time you see a penny glinting in the light, pause before you dismiss it. Look closer, dream deeper. Because legends do not always roar, they often whisper. And sometimes, those whispers sound like the soft clink of a penny falling into your hand. The story of the 1988 1-cent coin has taken us across history, design, mythology, culture, psychology, and dreams. We have walked through the corridors of the U.S. Mint, imagined billionaires locked in bidding wars, explored myths that grow with each retelling, and seen how something so small can carry the weight of eternity. And yet, after all these words, all these explorations, the legend of the 1988 penny still feels unfinished, because legends never truly end. They echo. They whisper. They live on long after the final sentence is spoken, What makes the 1988 penny so powerful is not just its rumored value of $173 million. It is the fact that it asks us to see differently. It challenges us to look at the world not through the lens of what things appear to be, but what they could become. A coin that once bought a piece of candy can now buy palaces. A penny, once ignored, becomes a king of value. That transformation is not just about metal, it is about perspective. It is about teaching us that hidden within the everyday are treasures waiting to be found. Think of the billions of 1988 pennies that were struck. Most have been spent, lost, worn down, or discarded. They live anonymous lives, blending into the background of commerce. But among them, a few, maybe only one, hold the secret of extraordinary rarity. This is the ultimate metaphor for life itself. Among billions of people, each seemingly ordinary, there are rare souls who carry within them the power to change the world. The penny is us, and we are the penny. Rare, overlooked, yet holding infinite possibility. Now imagine the discovery itself. Somewhere, someday, a person sits at a kitchen table late at night, sifting through a jar of coins. Their fingers pause on a penny dated 1988. Something about it feels different. They pull out a magnifying glass, compare it to others, search for the tiny details that mark it as unique. Slowly, the realization dawns. This is the coin, the one whispered about for decades, the one collectors dream of, the one destined to rewrite history. In that single moment, the world changes. For that person, time freezes. A lifetime of dreams condenses into the weight of a single penny. The news spreads. Headlines announce the discovery. Cameras flash. The coin is displayed under glass, admired by millions. The world watches as it goes to auction. The hall fills with collectors, billionaires, and dreamers. The bidding begins. The numbers rise. The tension grows. Until finally, the hammer falls. $173 million. The crowd erupts, the world gasps, and history is made. The penny, once dismissed as the smallest of all, becomes the greatest of all. But even that dramatic scene is not the true ending. The true ending lies in what the story leaves behind. For the child who begins collecting after hearing of the penny. For the ordinary person who learns that value can hide in plain sight. For the dreamer who realizes that greatness can emerge from the smallest places. The penny becomes more than a collectible. It becomes a philosophy, a life lesson, a torch of inspiration passed from one generation to the next. Coins are, after all, more than money. They are witnesses of time. The 1988 penny has witnessed laughter, tears, struggles, victories, wars, peace, love, loss, dreams, and disappointments. It has passed through countless hands, traveled countless miles, survived countless moments. And now, as it takes its place as a legend, it carries with it not only its own story, but the stories of all who ever touched it. That is why its value is infinite. That is why no number, not even $173 million, can fully capture its worth. And so we come to the final thought. Perhaps the greatest treasure is not the coin itself, but the way it makes us feel. The way it inspires us to look closer, to dream bigger, to believe in the impossible. The 1988 penny is more than copper and zinc. It is hope. It is imagination. It is proof that even the smallest things can carry the greatest meaning. As you finish this journey, remember, somewhere out there, in a drawer, in a pocket, in a forgotten jar, a legend might be waiting. It could be in your hands tomorrow. It could be passed to you in change at a store. It could be lying unnoticed right now, waiting for the moment when it reveals its secret. And when that happens, when the 1988 penny finally steps into the light of history, you will understand that legends are not just told. They are lived. So hold on to your pennies. Respect the small things. Treasure the ordinary. Because one day, the ordinary may reveal itself as extraordinary. One day, the whisper of copper may thunder like gold. One day, a single cent may become the greatest fortune the world has ever known. And when that day comes, when the 1988 penny fulfills its destiny, it will not just be a coin. It will be a miracle.